The skull is the most tattooed item in the world. For example, it resonates with many different cultures and parts of the world and has different meanings depending on how it's depicted. But it's something that everybody can identify with and find something about themselves. I always say, if you have Harry Potter Monopoly, it's still Monopoly. You've just put some stickers on it, but it's the same game. That's how we feel with a template. It's the same game as everyone else has got with different characters, and we don't want that. We want something that's totally new. Real gamers on Steam and Web2, if they're going to sit down and play this and put money into it, they're not going to want something they've seen 10 times before. It has to be new and it has to be unique. It was just a series of losses, rugs and disappointments, and people say they're building games that never arrive. So I'd kind of had enough, and then I heard Lucifer talking in an Alpha Bull space, one of the Bulls and Apes spaces, about the crypt and the story behind it. I heard the English accent and I was like, I'm gonna check it out. And then within a few months, I was invited to be a mod, then onto the team, then onto the core team, and then in the end, became co-founder of the project then. So that's the journey in a nutshell to where we are today. It's not about just taxing it all and making it official. It's about having some sort of regulation that if you can prove that someone has fraudulently taken money from others, whether it be crypto or NFTs, and had no intention of following through with the promises they've made, that there's accountability there. I think that's the most important thing.
Hey KOINectors, today we have Don, co-founder of The Crypt and founder of Typical Tigers. Hey Don, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks for having me on.
Of course, and thank you for coming on. Let's just get right into it. Before we get into all the juicy details about your project, can we get a brief of your project? So for any listeners who are unaware about The Crypt, they can get a brief overview of that.
The Crypt is a project that's been around for almost 2 years now on ETH network. Our OG collection minted out in 2020, 6,666 hand-drawn, front-facing, skull-based art. Traits are based on the original founder, Lucifer, my co-founder now. His life, his experiences, and fears, loves, things like that. And the idea behind the whole project is to leave a future-proof legacy to his daughter, Dolly. And by combining both Web3, which is the digital future, but also Web2 aspects of the business, is sort of combined into building what it's become. In the beginning, throughout 2024, we've minted our second collection, which is a digital trading card collection. They are full body avatar versions of the OG skulls. They will be featuring in our digital trading card game, with the betas releasing now before Christmas, in a 3D website which we have built and designed ourselves. We have a full-time paid dev who is in the process of creating our own game engine and modular system, so we can both have it web-based and also have it cross-platform. So people with an old telephone can play with someone who's on a virtual reality headset. That's what we're developing at the moment. It'll probably complete in 6 months, but the playable beta version will be launching before Christmas. Then we're planning to launch IRL trading cards in the future. And all of our holders, we use the drip bot. I'm sure you're familiar with the drip bot. We use the drip bot in our Discord. Our Discord token is called Dead Points. By holding the NFTs, you earn them daily. Through quests and missions on Twitter or poker games, you can earn them. You can spend them in the store, where we put up things you can buy for Dead Points, but also raffles as well. But we've taken it a stage further. So the Dead Points will actually be the in-game token for the digital trading card game. We're mindful that it's going to be an in-game token that doesn't have a monetary value because of the consequences of having a monetary value token incorporated with the game. We are going to have a on-chain token, which is called CTC, and you will in some shape or form be able to trade your Dead Points for CTC. But that's a separate thing to the game. The idea is to create this digital trading card game within our own engine, within our own world, where it's not just a game for our holders, it's a game that stands up in Web2. So people can have no idea about NFTs or the crypt, but find this digital trading card game that they like, and they can come in and play it for free. They can use fiat to upgrade their character, armors, weapons, all the fun fantasy things, and happily find their way into NFTs if that's the way. We're not arrogant enough to say that we're going to onboard Web2 with this game, but There will be a few that come over, but you will be able to play it without any knowledge of the Web3 side. Our holders and people from Web3 will be able to upgrade their characters with the dead points they've earned for free. Also, the rarer digital trading card they have when they start, the head start they'll have with the things the character has on it. So there'll be two different ways of coming into the game, but then everybody will be able to play together. That's the idea and the mission behind it. I was a big holder in the Typical Tigers, an ETH project that launched in 2021. It minted just after the Lazy Lion, so it's an OG project. In the beginning of 2023, I took over the project from the original founders. We've still got great communication. They just didn't have time to give it the justice it wanted. I said, I'd like to carry on. They said, as long as you promise to give 50% of all income to saving tigers in the wild and continue the mission, we're happy to hand it over. So we did that. And because I was so involved in the crypt, we said, let's create the crypto universe and bring the Typical Tigers into the Discord. So that's how they're tied together. They have their home base in the Discord, and they also earn the same dead points that the crypt does. Less of them per item, but they still earn them. That's how those two came together.
Fantastic. And that's super interesting. Thank you so much for such a great breakdown of everything you guys are doing. I'm sure the listeners can't even sit still right now because you've mentioned so many cool things from gamification to different tokens, which are on chain and the in-game chain, in-game token. And the project that you took over, Typical Tigers, and how that's you integrated that and given it some utility within the crypt ecosystem. So that's fantastic. So yeah, before we get into more details about that and more questions related to the project, we'd love to know more about you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your life before Web3, and how your journey in the Web3 space began?
Absolutely. I have a French father and Swedish mother. They met in England. I was born and grew up in England. Played a lot of cricket from a young age and ended up playing cricket until I was broken in the body. Probably played a few years longer than I should have. Played a year in Australia and represented both France and Sweden national teams. I ended up being the manager for the Swedish national team for a couple of years and studied sports science at university. So I landed in sports management. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, managing sports clubs in Sweden. I met my wife, who's Swedish, in England 23 years ago. But the last 17 years, we've been living here, moved to Stockholm. I'm based here now. This is home. I found Web3 through a friend I played cricket with, an Australian friend, and introduced me at the end of 2021. And, we started buying things and getting learning the ropes. My first rug was mutant doodle apes or something like that. Once there were 50% minted, Discord disappeared, Twitter disappeared, they changed their names. It was the classic 2021 rug. And we felt so stupid, but you hear people saying they've paid their dues or learnt and stuff like that. I'm still pretty bitter about it. But yeah, we've gone through that. I've gone through the motions like everybody else and just became really active in a few projects that I was interested in, like Typical Tigers, and ended up doing some mod work on a few projects, and even some of those rugged from under me. Eventually landed in the good ones. I think I was about ready to leave Web3 before the crypt. I was in Bulls and Apes and found a good family there, a lot of friends, and doing a lot of alpha spaces with some guys there. And I pulled a 1 of 1 mint and managed to sell it for like 8 ETH or something. That kept me in Web3 because otherwise I was gone. It was just a series of losses, rugs, and disappointments. And people say they're building games that never arrive. So I'd kind of had enough. And then I heard Lucifer talking in an Alpha Bull space, one of the Bulls and Apes spaces, about the crypt and the story behind it. I heard the English accent and I was like, I'm gonna check it out. And then within a few months, I was invited to be a mod, then onto the team, then onto the core team. And then in the end, became co-founder of the project then. So that's the journey in a nutshell to where we are today.
Wow, that's so incredible to hear because there's many founders and many projects, but just the fact that you've been, like you mentioned, you've learned the ropes by getting rugged and doing all these different things. You started off as a community member and a mod and then the core team, and now obviously you're a co-founder. So that's amazing. And that means you really have the breadth of experience that's required. You've been in all the different verticals of a project and a team, and now obviously you're co-founder. So you also have that perspective on the ground rather than just having the view that a founder might have. That's amazing to hear. You mentioned that you pulled a 1 of 1, which you managed to sell for 8 ETH. Was this for the Bulls and Apes or the Crypt
Bulls and
project?
Apes. Yeah.
Bulls and Apes. Okay, that's super cool to hear. And Bulls and Apes, they're still doing great. I've still seen them around and they're still kicking, which is nice to hear. Fantastic.
I'm not as active there as I was before, but they're still going. They've been around a long time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really glad to hear that they were able to keep you in the Web3 space and you ended up doing great things, becoming a co-founder in the crypt and building a community for yourself. That's fantastic. Um, let's get some more questions regarding the crypt. You mentioned that Lucifer was the artist. I'm sure he discusses this a lot, but you mentioned the purpose behind the project was so he can leave behind a legacy for his daughter. Is his daughter also what inspired the art choice, or was there, some other things to that?
So he's not the artist, as far as I'm aware. The
Okay,
artist
okay.
is still undisclosed. It was the original founder of the project. Could well be, but he hasn't said he is.
Okay.
The artwork's not specifically of the crypt. The crypt's quite skull-based. Some of it's quite dark. Some of it's very beautiful, but it is
Mm,
skull. So it's not something that was designed for a young
yeah,
child. It's more about his personal style and his experiences. He's mentioned a lot of time on Spaces as well. The skull is the most tattooed item in the world. For example, it resonates with many different cultures and parts of the world and has different meanings depending on how it's depicted. But it's something that everybody can identify with and find something about themselves in.
fantastic. And yeah, I definitely do agree. Even within the Web3 space, there are many projects that have some NFTs or traits that are skull-based. So that is something many people can recognize.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So how was your project funded before minting? Like you mentioned, Lucifer founded it. And
Yep.
then post mint, how are you guys managing those costs? And is the current model you guys are running on sustainable for you?
So everything was pre-funded by Lucifer. He's been successful and owns multiple businesses. He's not throwing money at it that he never wants to see back. It's not a charity, but he has pre-funded everything and all the payments needed for developers and artists. Some of it's been paid back through the mints. The first collection, the OG collection, is a victim of Blur's impact on the Web3 space and its royalty by choice. The digital trading cards came later when the new contracts were available, so that has enforced royalties. So there is some income there, but we're looking basically we've got the runway long enough until the game's in a position where it can be shop windowed for investors and it can start earning money there on its own. So it is sustainable going forward. There is a circular income and expenditure plan for the coming years. One thing we haven't spoken about, and I don't know if you know, is that I went to Ape Fest in Lisbon, my first Ape Fest, and it was in Lisbon a couple of months ago that Ape Chain was launched. Before I came back, I had a landing in Paris, and we had a space from the airport, and we have to be involved in Ape Chain. Like it's this new thing, it's growing. We need to be there from the beginning. The contacts, everybody's talking about meme coins on Ape Chain and Ape Chain projects. When you ask about the art for the crypt, we launched a meme coin called After on Ape Chain, and we launched a collection called Oogies, which is now one of the top collections on ApeChain for the last 2 weeks. It was a free mint for everyone that held crypts and digital trading cards. The mints that were left, we minted for 7 ape. At that point, ApeCoin was a little bit cheaper, so it's probably about $8 or $9 a mint. It's now sitting at a 45 ape floor, and ApeCoin's doubled. And again, there's enforced royalties on that one, creating a lot of volume and income. And we're going to incorporate them into the game. They may not be part of the actual digital trading card game with the crypts because they're totally different styles, cartoon based, designed for his daughter. The name Oogie is something that he calls his daughter. It's much more child friendly artwork and a lot more attractive. It was a way of rewarding our crypt holders that have been minting the trading cards for a long time under the bear. They've all been able to make some profit with the free mint. They also earn the dead points and they've been inducted into the crypt universe. So they have an instant utility there. So that's maybe designed for Dolly art wise, I would say.
That's fantastic. Really nice to hear. I've actually heard of the Oogies on Twitter. Like you mentioned, ApeChain recently blew up and the price doubled. I actually did dabble a little bit in ApeChain with the meme coins. I did hear of Oogies and I actually didn't know that you guys were behind that. So that's fantastic that you guys are able to diversify and even on different chains and but still keep it within the ecosystem and integrate it within your debt points and all that, which is
Mm.
fantastic. Yeah.
I think that's something that's really important because Ape Chain, for me, The beginning was amazing. The last few weeks have been a little bit less, like a lot of very bad artwork, and things that are minted, hyped up, and then 2 days later they're gone. And they're like $1 or less floor price. No one's having spaces. There's no utility. If it's not promised before mint, do your research. You choose if you mint it. But I think that, there's a few projects like Zards and G's, for example, that have a plan for the future, a game, a community behind them that are going to help build the future on ApeChain. And we want to be one of those projects that has a utility and a reason to hold, not just mint this and you might be able to flip it for a bit, but to actually create a long lasting project. And that's very difficult from scratch. But we have the community from Typical Tigers from 2021, and we have the Crypt community for the last year and a half. So there is a support base there that know now the team and each other that when we say we're going to do something, it's been done. When we do giveaways, we give it away. We're building the game live. There's a test website where people can look at it live. When we say we're working in the background, people don't, because instantly I think, well, you're lying, I've been here before. So with that experience in mind, they can see it being built. We have a space with a dev every Wednesday where he says what he's done the last week, shares some graphics and code that I don't understand and things like that. I think that's the positive thing, that we've got that community behind us already. To add in new family just expands it, but we don't have to start from the beginning. And there's 1,000 people going, yeah, they've given away 2 Macy's. Yeah, they've given away $300,000 over the last 2 years in promotions. That really helps because everybody that's been around for more than 2 years has been burnt, rugged, or lied to, or scammed. To have that sort of history behind us really helps people trust, because it's a very hard space to trust in. I understand that fully.
100%. Like one of the things you mentioned is that you have weekly spaces with the dev where he talks about updates. I think that in itself is a huge thing for people because it's very transparent, which is amazing. And that's what Web3 is all about. People are able to see that these guys are actually getting things done, and there's a developer who's working on it and providing updates. So that's fantastic. The fact that you've given $300,000 in giveaways is commendable to you guys, and I'm sure the community really does appreciate that. So that's fantastic. And then one more follow-up question. You mentioned building out a game, which the beta will come before Christmas, which is again very exciting. Did you always have a vision to gamify or create a game? Or was it something you guys adapted and you guys thought, okay, building a game out can help us with revenue? Or was it like a mix of both?
So no, the plan was always for a digital trading card game. And the plan was always to have IRL trading card games with chips that you could scan to enter the game and learn about the game. We also have an affiliate raffle platform called luxraffles.io. We're not marketing it at the moment, but it's there and functional. The idea is that we'll buy high end, and we've done a few pudgy penguins and things like that back when they were 3.5 ETH, but we'll buy them and then do a giveaway for holders of the crypt for very cheap, like raffle tickets. But that's not special. It's just a raffle platform. But what's special about it is that our holders can hold their own raffles. They can put up any NFT that's approved. I think there's 250 projects that are approved. So they can put up a lazy lion, for example, but they choose how many tickets there will be and the price per ticket. And then when it's finished, they press a button. The winner's randomly selected and sent the NFT, and they're sent their ETH back minus a 1.5% fee. That's another utility that's been there since the beginning that we planned. Pivot wise, things that we've added on that we hadn't planned for is the scope of the game. In the beginning, we were looking at models like Unity and templates for trading card games and then doing our own. And we became incredibly frustrated by the constrictions when we wanted to add things or do our own thing. And we don't want it to be like that. So after a few months, we were like, no, we're going to build our own from scratch, because then we can do exactly what we want. And then also by doing that, we own the game state, the game engine, the brain, the whole 3D universe. If other people want to come and have a piece of that universe and have their game incorporated it with their own link, they can do that. It doesn't have to be the same game as us, but it can be on the same platform. So we went in that direction and said, now we're going to do it properly, spend a lot more money. I always say, if you have Harry Potter Monopoly, it's still Monopoly. You've just put some stickers on it, but it's the same game. That's how we feel with a template. It's the same game as everyone else has got with different characters, and we don't want that. We want something that's totally new. Real gamers on Steam and Web2, if they're going to sit down and play this and put money into it, they're not going to want something they've seen 10 times before. It has to be new and it has to be unique. So that's a major pivot, not in what we're going to do, but in what we're providing within the game. The other one was with Ape Chain with the Oogies. And that was just because, you know, after Ape Fest, we just realized that there was this massive opportunity coming there to be one of the first on a blockchain to launch a project. It may not be super special right now, but in a year, 2, 3, 4 years, to be one of the OGs that were there, I think that's something really cool to be a part of.
Wow, that's fantastic. And, like you mentioned, I didn't hear the name of the platform where you guys do the raffles and all that.
Luxraffles.io.
Lux raffles. That's fantastic. You just dropped, but I think that in itself is a pretty big thing because, like you mentioned, holders can, that's an opportunity for holders to earn some ETH. And obviously, that also helps you out with the little cut that you guys take, 1% something. And that's fantastic. And, it's great to hear that even though you guys always had a vision to create a game, both physically and digitally, you were able to pivot. And even if it does cost more, you still want to create a game that's unique and something different rather than just getting a normal game and putting your own skin or theme on top of that. So that's amazing. Glad to hear.
And I have got some stick for this before. I don't want to talk down to people that do use templates and things like that, but it serves a certain purpose, and you can make a very good game using those templates. When our scope is a lot bigger to try and make it stand alone in the Web2 world as a game. That's not super easy to break through. That's one of the reasons why we've said it. It doesn't matter if our floor is, 0.01 ETH or 1 ETH. The game's going to be the same. We're going to complete it and launch it because we see the possibilities of it both within Web3 and Web2. So
That's fantastic. And yeah, you guys are looking at those possibilities. And I think you guys have also put a lot of thought into the fact that the game is completely free to play. Anyone who doesn't even know about Web3 can access it. That's a huge thing because a lot of the Web3 games nowadays, people are learning and adapting. They're doing the same approach that you guys are. But before many of the Web3 games, they were, you had to have like a wallet, for example, or you had to have some interaction with the blockchain. And many people didn't understand it or didn't like it. Most people who don't know about Web3 they just hear of crypto and they directly associate it with like scam or rugs and stuff like that, which is, I
that's
mean,
right.
yeah, which is fair to some extent. But definitely there are people here who are doing good things and trying to build utility just like you guys. So that's fantastic that you have thought of all those small things.
Yeah,
That's great.
and I think it just makes business sense as well. How big is the Web2 gaming market? How big is the Web3 gaming market?
Exactly.
Which one should we target, or should we target both? If you've got the ability to do it and the pre-funding and the runway to do it, it's a no-brainer. That's the way to go forward business-wise.
100%. Agreed, agreed. Fantastic. So let's get into some different types of questions. You joined the space in 2021 and you've learned the ropes, been in the trenches, been a project founder, been a mod, done all these different things. So I'm sure you have a very vast experience and perspective. The first question, in the current stage of the market, what do you think are the biggest challenges in the NFT space? You can also talk about particularly for creators within your own perspective.
Yeah, so I think something that we realized was there's we don't use influencers. We don't pay people to tweet. We're never going to, and we're not interested in that sort of system. We want to do it organically with the community we have and build on. That's a challenge. We started out in the beginning, especially Lucifer before I joined, was extremely vocal on calling out scammers in the industry. So we did a space with Ben.eth and called him out, and our Twitter account got taken down. Trade AI stacks we called out. We had interviews with people involved in those scams, and it created quite a lot of negativity towards us by people that are like, oh, but you're just jealous, you don't know, or whatever. And then when it all fell apart and we were correct, then people came back and said, you know what, you saved me X amount, or you would have saved me if I listened. We need more people willing to stand up to this accepted practice. It has been a challenge, but I think we're seeing the rewards now. There are a lot of people that know each other. There are a lot of people that have been in the same networks or projects or BAYC circles, and it's very easy for them to promote each other. They've all got great big followings and things like that. In the middle of that, you really have to talk through results. The last week, we've started to get contact from people and platforms that are interested in working with us. We've sent out all the grant applications, all the launchpad applications where we're going to mint and things like that. We've just had so many applications we didn't have time to see them all. But now when we've proved that we are here to stay, we have a plan, utility, we look after our holders, people are starting to notice. And I think if you're coming in right now new to NFTs, regardless of the chain, it's pretty hard because people have been through the mill. They don't trust founders. They don't trust new projects. They don't trust things. You have to prove yourself. And if you don't have the ability to start the project, start doing spaces, promotions, and Discord and building a community when you're established, make these contacts, it will be very hard to get a successful project off the ground. And I think that's why people turn to paying thousands of dollars to influencers to launch their projects. I don't know if that's the way we want to go. I'm sure it works for some people, but I think that's the biggest challenge at the moment. And especially that people say do your own research, but do people know how to? Is anyone teaching people how to read the blockchain? See if it's the project's wallets that are all minting, that are pumping fake volume, because it's very easy to say, do your own research, but do they actually know how to? And I think that's a big challenge for people coming in now. I'm jealous of people coming in now. Like they're coming in and there's great projects and it's a booming market. ETH's going up, ApeCoin's going up. There's airdrops everywhere. People are making money. It's great. But at the same time, they're at risk because they haven't been through the experiences we've been through. So somewhere we really need to look after the new people coming in and say, listen, don't click links. Make sure it's the right person in Discord. This is how you do your own research. Make sure you've got a mint wallet and a separate, all those things that are just second nature to us now aren't for new people. And I think that's a big challenge as well, because we sort of need to help those people that are coming in new, I suppose.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, shout out to you guys for, like you mentioned, you guys called out scammers and shady people, which was very brave. Many of those who were in that scam and, fully trusted these people, they probably had a go at you guys, like you mentioned. But in the end, when the house of cards fell, then they realized that, okay, these guys were actually trying to help us. They were trying to save us. And like you mentioned, they appreciated you, which is fantastic. And yeah, I do agree with, like for us, we've been here for a couple of years, so we know all these small things that, like you mentioned, we have that's second nature to us. And I think there are some projects and platforms that are starting to focus on the education that's needed, especially for new people who come into the space. But definitely, it's still very scattered and not easily accessible. So yeah, that is a gap in the market. That is a challenge currently, and something we definitely need to work towards. That's fantastic that you mentioned that. We talked about the challenges. Now, let's get into the trends. What trends in the NFT or Web3 space excite you the most? And how do you see the future of NFTs evolving?
I think we'll take the last question first. I think for NFTs to really take off, because we are still a very small community in the grand scheme of things. For it to take off, there needs to be some accountability and some regulation. And that annoys people when I say it, because it's meant to be DeFi and there's these sort of blockchain maxis against the government and fiat. And I get that. But at the same time, to bring in people that are interested in NFTs or could be interested in trading crypto or saving and investing in crypto, they're not going to do it because, like you said, if you ask somebody about crypto, they'll talk about Sam Bankman-Fried, they'll talk about scams, and they'll talk about tax evasion. If you talk to them about NFTs, there's two things they know. Which one of their famous pop stars owns a Bored Ape? Or they'll say it's a scam. Doodles coming into McDonald's and things like that are a step of where we're going for this sort of crossover into the mainstream. But without regulation, if you can start a project, rug everybody, and walk away with the money, and not be treated like you just robbed a bank, you're going to have trouble to sell it to normal people. And I think that's something that's needed for mass adoption. There's been a lot of positivity with what's happening politically in America regarding crypto, but does that really matter if the rest of the world falls apart? So I think there needs to be people both able to run countries and things like that, but also have a sensible view on crypto and realize that it is a part of the future. There's no point ignoring it. How can we integrate it into the mainstream? How can we regulate it in a way that doesn't turn people off, but also makes it safer for people? I think they're big things without getting too political about it. I think right now it's very exciting because we've been in this bear market for a couple of years and everyone keeps saying next month. Finally now, Bitcoin's hit 100,000, Ethereum's gone up, Ape Chain's opened, Pudgy Penguins have gone to 26th ETH this week. MAYC and BAYC have doubled in floor. They're still a long way from where they were, but they've doubled over the last few weeks. I think that positivity and sentiment is bringing people back to the space that left. I've had two people on a smaller scale in the last couple of weeks, one from the typical Tigers and one from before that, who have turned up on X and said, yeah, I've taken a break. The last year or so just killed me in Web3, but yeah, I'm back now. It's looking exciting. What's going on? What's the future for the Tigers? So I think that's the positive feeling around it at the moment. I think Bitcoin leads. Where that goes, Ethereum follows. Where Ethereum follows, the meme coins follow. And if the meme coins do well, that money then filters a week or two later into NFTs. So everything follows each other. There's just like a filter and a little bit of a time delay between them. I'm not an expert, but I think if you watch the Bitcoin and ETH prices, it gives you a good idea about what's going to happen in the NFT market a few weeks later.
100%, yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Some people might not have the best response to this statement that regulation needs to come in, but I actually do agree with it. It's the type of regulation, not the type of regulation that we experienced in the past, where they're just trying to choke out the whole ecosystem, but the type of
Yeah.
regulation where they're actually protecting newcomers and preventing scams. Regulation is definitely needed, or else people would just take advantage of people who are unaware. So yeah, I completely
Yeah,
do
and
agree with that.
it's not about just taxing it all and
Yeah.
making it official. It's about having some sort of regulation that if you can prove that someone has fraudulently taken money from others, whether it be
Mhm.
crypto or NFTs, and had no intention of following through with the promises they've made, that there's accountability there. I think that's
Yeah,
the most important thing. Yeah.
100%. Agreed. We can see even people on Twitter, the WAGMEs are coming back. So that's fantastic. Like you mentioned, the positivity, the uplifted sentiment, and like you mentioned, your own personal experiences of friends that you have there joining Web3 again. So that's always great to hear. It really tells you when, especially on a personal level, you see people are coming back and they're, hitting you up about your projects and stuff. That really does, uplift the mood. And yeah, I think you actually got it 100% correct that that's how sort of the liquidity trickles down. Starts with Bitcoin and goes into Ethereum, then other smaller altcoins, meme coins, and then NFTs. So it goes down like the risk ladder and it gets riskier and riskier. And then resets and comes back. We head into another bear market and it's cyclical. But yeah, I think we still have a good amount of time and it's great to see all these NFT projects, all these blue chip projects picking up. We will definitely see that liquidity coming down into the projects who are, not as high floor price. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your views and your perspective on the NFT space. Let's get back to the crypt and your projects. Firstly, you guys have been here for a few years and you're developing your own game and all that. How has your team size changed over time and how has that impacted your project?
It hasn't changed. We've had the same amount of people from moderators, community managers, up to Lucifer as the original founder. There's been changes within the roles. Some mods have become community managers with outreach, or we have Rekin that works specifically with poker collabs. We play a lot of poker with other people. And then obviously myself that's gone up to be co-founder. We have a couple of people that have been active as mods and community managers that have become core team. Size wise, it hasn't changed. We have a full-time dev working on the game that we didn't have before. So that's a big cost, but a one-person addition. So I mean, it's myself and Lucifer as co-founders, and then we have Munch and Reegs on the core team. So it's four of us, and then we have the game developer and our in-house developer for Discord and programming me, and then we have the mods and community managers that work with other community spaces and administrating the Discord. Yeah, it hasn't changed really over the last year and a half. People have moved into different positions. Some people have left and some people have come in, but the amount of people has been pretty steady all the way.
That's nice to hear. It's great to see that you guys are still able to do so much even with the same amount of people. So obviously shows, how efficient you guys are and how your team members have gone up the ladder. Those guys are gaining experience, learning new things, and they're probably much more versatile now and can do many things at a higher level. So you mentioned you have the typical tigers, the crypt, and the oogies, and all these different communities. And you mentioned you guys are very transparent, for example, with the spaces and all that, and the community is very important to you. Can you tell us the process of how your community's opinion and or feedback? So like, for example, if you guys deliver something or make an announcement, the feedback on that. Firstly, how you guys, filtered all those opinions, because, at some point it does get a lot, and whether that impacts your vision and mission for your project.
Yeah, it definitely does. I had an old cricket coach that said to me, listen to all the advice, but only hear what's worth hearing. If you don't listen to everything, you might miss something that's worth hearing. And I probably didn't really understand it as a 12 or a 13-year-old, but it's something that's stuck in my head, and I can sort of say, I think this is the best. I like this art, this trait, this coin name, whatever. I could think it's the best thing ever. But if the community don't like it, well, am I going to buy it all myself and have a market cap of $10 and be the only holder or the only person that mints it? You have these ideas and plans, and then you have to see what the feedback is. And if a lot of the feedback's the same or a lot of the desires are the same, that's when you have to say, okay, we need to pivot. We need to do this because at the end of the day, you're doing it for the community. If the community don't appreciate it, don't understand it, or aren't interested in it, then that community gets smaller and your business gets smaller. We know the vast majority of people in an NFT project hold between 1 and 5 NFTs. So we need to make sure that our our utilities, our accessibility, and things like that are, on the whole, designed for people that hold 1 to 5 NFTs. For example, if we're going to put something in the store that you can buy with dead points, we have to work out how much the whales own. Can they go in and buy everything straight away? If we price it higher, they can't buy it straight away, but then nobody else can buy it. So that sort of discussion, and then say, okay, if we're going to put a lazy lion in the store, for example, we'll put one in a raffle as well, so that everybody has a chance, depending on how much they have, and also have a chance to build their bags. Just trying to work out those things and adjust them to make sure that it's fair for everybody. But if someone's bought 100 and they're staking them and making great rewards, they need to be rewarded for it. They shouldn't be penalized for being a whale. Those things are taken into account and adjusted all the time. There are quite a few in the community, and not quite a few in the community, quite a few loud people that were like, why are you doing the Oogies? Like, I don't get it. The game's not launched yet. We've got to focus on this. And I was like, it's a free mint for you guys. You don't have to mint it. You don't have to have one to play the trading card game. They will be a part of the game where they're active. They will earn dead points, but you don't have to. It's not something you have to continue. You can completely ignore it and nothing changes. It's an added utility. And then when it took off and lots of new people are joining the Discord and the positivity's been so great, now people are going, okay, this was clever, well done. Sometimes you have to stick by your guns and sort of prove that it's the right way to go. And other times you have to sort of put your ego aside and go, oh, well, I really thought that was going to be a great idea, but it seems that no one likes it. We don't want to alienate the community, so we will pivot. That balance isn't easy, and I'm sure we get it wrong sometimes and we get it right sometimes, but we try to do it. And like I said, that's the key. Listen to everything and hear what's worth hearing.
Perfect. Amazing. And yeah, I think that coach of yours in cricket, the advice he gave you was really good advice. And yeah, it's obvious that you're implementing it now. I completely agree with you. There are many loud people and thousands of holders. Firstly, it's very hard and time consuming to take into account all those opinions. So you have to be able to filter out, which ones are good, which ones are not so good. It seems like you guys are able to do that very well. Like you mentioned, you as founders have a different perspective than a regular holder. If there's a thing that you think will really benefit the community, then even if many people don't agree with it, you should still go ahead. Hopefully in the future it works out and they say, okay, it worked out. Thank you guys so much for helping us out. Like you did with the
Yeah,
Oogies.
and then once you've done it a couple of times, it gets easier because if
Exactly.
people you start getting a bit of pushback, like, are we not really into this? So remember how you felt when we brought the Doogies in and how positive that was. We proved ourselves there, so trust us on this one. Once you have the background of doing things with the community, then you gain that trust. So yeah, each correct decision helps in the future.
Exactly. 100%. Couldn't agree more. So the last question, if there's any new listeners who are obviously after listening to this, they're probably much more aware about the crypt and everything you guys are doing. But in summary, three things that you think set the crypt apart from other projects, what would those three things be?
The transparency and honesty is the first thing. Both myself, Lucifer, and the team are online, sleep less than we should, accessible and available, and communicate with the community. I think that's something that's not always there. There's a lot of founders that aren't in Discord or don't do spaces often. I think our community sets us apart. When people join the Discord, we often get the comment within a few days. I can't believe the welcome I've had, the help I've had, the information. It is really like a family. I think that would be the second thing. And the third thing is just that we're going to deliver everything that we promised, regardless of the floor price. So we're not there going, you guys need to sweep, or we can't do this, or we have to mint this, or we can't do this. We're going to do this. If you want to be up with us for the ride, then it's there. I think that's quite a positive place to be in as a community member. So I think they're probably the three things.
Fantastic. And I don't think there could be three better things. Transparency, honesty, accessibility. Those are extremely important, especially in Web3. Those things are the ethos of Web3 and decentralization in general. That's one thing that sets you guys apart. Community, obviously, super important. The fact that you guys are able to deliver on things that you promised, no matter what the floor price is, you still do what you said you're going to do. So that's fantastic. It's sort of become tradition now for all the founders and creators we interview. And for like, this is something special we like to give to the listeners who've listened all the way to the end. If there's any exclusive alpha you could drop for us for the crypt, especially for the listeners who've been here all the way to the end, who've listened to you, that'd be amazing. And obviously no pressure.
In Planet Rect, in the Oogies universe, there's three characters. There's Oogie, Poogie, Moogie. And in this collection, there is only one character that's not an Oogie. It's a one of one. In the future, there may be a way for you to access the other characters within this collection. Not a new collection, not a new mint, but there may be a way to access the other characters coming soon.
Wow, that's fantastic. Super exciting. I'm sure all the Oogies holders are super excited to hear that, and all the people who are new to the crypt and the Oogies, they're going to start jumping up on your community and asking about, all these things. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Alpha. Before we end, I'll do a quick recap of everything that was talked about so people can remember. If they have any questions, they can head to your community and ask. So, guys, this was Don, co-founder of The Crypt, founder of Typical Tigers, and also Oogies. So, The Crypt was started 2 years ago on Ethereum. The OG collection minted in 2023. Their 6,666 hand-drawn front-facing skull art drawn by the artist is
By an
anonymous.
unknown artist that hasn't been announced yet.
Exactly. Lucifer was also one of the co-founders. The purpose of the project for Lucifer was to leave a future-proof legacy for his daughter Dolly, and it combines Web2 and Web3. They minted a second collection of digital trading cards, which will be a game coming this Christmas, the beta version. And those are full-body avatars of the OG collection. In their Discord, they use a drip bot for points, which can be used for raffles and prizes and all that, which you earn by holding the different projects. There will be the in-game currency, obviously, and the on-chain token, which is called CTC, which debt points can also be converted for. And the game, there's actually no knowledge of Web3 needed, and it's a free-to-play game. And then some information about Typical Tigers. Don was a big holder of them. And then he took over the project and promised the original founders that 50% of all proceeds would go to saving tigers, which is a very noble mission. A little bit about Don: was born and grew up in England, played cricket for his career, was a manager of multiple sports clubs and the Swedish national team for cricket, which is fantastic. And now he's living in Stockholm and he's based there. He found out about Web3 through a friend in cricket, learned the ropes, got rugged, did many different things. Obviously, he's part of a team, is a fantastic founder now. And then we asked more questions about his project. Lucifer completely bootstrapped the project, and now they're generating enough runway till when the game comes out and starts generating revenue. So their model is also very sustainable, and they're here for the long run. We asked Don about his perspective on the NFT space in general. He told us about the challenges and, how people who are trying to focus on organic growth, that is quite challenging. And there are many scammers, and even sometimes when you call them out, that can lead to backlash. There are barriers to entry for outsiders who aren't well known. They need to prove themselves through results and, build a reputation. And then they can, it's then easier for them to network, talk to people, and promote their project. And then we talked about the NFT trends that excite Don the most and how he sees the future evolving for NFTs. He sees NFTs crossing over into the mainstream, things like regulation coming in to protect people, which is needed for mass adoption. And then all the positivity going on with the new administration in the US with Web3 and crypto. And the fact that we're finally coming out of the bear market for NFTs, blue chip projects are picking up, and sentiment is going back up. So that's fantastic. And then we asked some more questions about the project. The team size has actually not changed. Roles have changed. Like Don himself, he started off as a mod, and now he's obviously a co-founder. And there's many different people within the team, from developers to mods to co-founders to community managers to poker-specific people, which is really cool. He talked to us about the fact that the community is very involved in the project and they influence their mission and their vision. The co-founders and the team filter all those different opinions and make sure they're heading in the right direction. To end off with the three things that he said sets the project apart. Firstly, transparency, honesty, and accessibility. Then the fact that the community is super warm and family-like. And then third is that they always deliver no matter what, and they stick to their promises. And in the end, the little piece of alpha he dropped that in the Oogies universe, there's a 1 of 1. And there may be a way that you can access different characters apart from the 3 main characters within the collection. So I think that should have recapped everything, or the main points at least. Thank you so much, Don. And before we end, do you have any closing remarks?
No, thank you very much for the interview and the amazing recap as well. I don't know how you've taken those notes and managed to do that, but very impressive. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Don. Really appreciate you. So for all the listeners, please make sure to check out The Crypt, check out Typical Tigers, check out Oogies. You have a plethora of choices, and join their Discord, buy some NFTs, follow Don, get to know him more. Just make sure you interact with them because you can see they're here for the long run and they're definitely doing great things. So thank you all and hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.